Mr. President, as you know, last Friday the Senate swore in new leaders for the 119th Congress. And in 2 weeks, the new Commander-in-Chief will be sworn in for a second time. We are 6 days into a new year, and people around the country are making resolutions for the new year, from everything from health to fitness, books to read, financial goals to meet. And as Republicans, now is a good time for us to do the exact same thing. We have our work cut out for us to help clean up the mess that President Biden and Senate Democrats have left us from the last 4 years. I believe our first and most urgent task is to confirm President Trump's nominees for his cabinet. The president won the election, and he's entitled to his team, absent extraordinary circumstances. It's simply impossible for the new administration to tackle the mountain of work waiting for them without their team of advisors who will lead critical government agencies. Without the president's cabinet in place, he cannot get the job done that he was elected to do on November the 5th. With this cabinet in place, we can get to work to implement the agenda that Texans and Americans across the country elected a trifecta of Republican leaders to accomplish. The top of our list of priorities is, of course, to secure the southern border. I represent a state with 1,200 miles of common border with Mexico. And sadly and tragically, under the previous administration's open border policies, it has been an unmitigated disaster. The crisis at the southern border is one that President Biden quite literally invited with his campaign rhetoric and with his administration's policies. He invited this crisis. This was perhaps the one campaign promise that he delivered on. The Biden administration set out to reverse many, if not all, of President Trump's policies from his first term, including the Remain in Mexico policy and Title 42. Under President Biden's watch, the Border Patrol are overwhelmed with record numbers of illegal migrants crossing the border. Border Patrol encountered more than 370 people on the terror watch list crossing between ports of entry during the Biden administration. We know there were roughly a dozen people who were part of the conspiracy that resulted in the death of 3,000 Americans on September the 11th, 2001. And now here we have 370 people on the terror watch list that crossed between ports of entry during the Biden administration. Well, that compares with well under 10 years under the Trump administration. But I think the point is pretty obvious. This is dangerous. And those are only the aliens who the Border Patrol encountered or apprehended. Remember that President Biden also set records for gotaways. That's what the Border Patrol calls the people who've simply evaded law enforcement. Aliens who fled because, frankly, they were up to no good. As of May, more than 1.7 million gotaways had made their ways into the United States under their watch. And these are just people who triggered various cameras and sensors and were able to evade law enforcement. Surely there were more that were able to make their way into the interior of the United States. Again, under President Biden's border policies, all you have to do is turn yourself in and you would be released into the interior. But these are people that could not even risk that because of either their criminal records or their intentions to do harm, including carry drugs into the United States. Since the Biden administration established the word asylum as a magic word that resulted in your release in the interior, we can be pretty sure that many of those evading Border Patrol have something else to hide. Human trafficking and drug trafficking by the cartels have caused enormous and often untold suffering for the people of my home state of Texas and Americans as a whole. Fentanyl, which is now the leading cause of death of young people in America, 18 to 45, is manufactured, or the precursors are manufactured in China and trafficked through the U.S.-Mexico border. Countless migrants released into the interior of our country have failed to show up for their day in court, showing others looking to make the dangerous journey to the United States that they might also be able to make it and suffer zero consequences. All of these actions, or lack of actions from the Biden administration, have sent a clear signal that the laws of the United States will not be enforced. You know, law enforcement depends on our great men and women in blue to investigate crimes and to deter other people from committing crimes. But deterrence is a very important element that has simply been lost by the Biden administration's open border policies. Given the fact that most people who come to the United States know under the Biden administration that you'll simply be released, there's no reason for them to believe that they will not be released as well, and so there is zero deterrence. That is getting ready to change under President Trump.